Okay, we're working on some patterns and graphs. Our first excellence question, we actually needed to do all of this first. So we had to figure out the formula. They asked how many tiles there were in pattern 20. Then they wanted to know which pattern will have 159 tiles. Now they're saying, I have 1,200 tiles available. What is the largest pattern I can build and how many tiles will be left over? Now this is the exact same skill as that. It's the same skill. There's just a slight extra step we need to do for our excellence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same equation, which is 2n minus 1, and I'm going to make it equal 1,200. Exactly how I did over here. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve for n. So get rid of my 1. So I've got 2n equals 1,201. Get rid of my 2 by doing the opposite, by dividing. Okay? And 1,201 divided by 2 would give me pattern 600.5. Now, we don't get like 0.5 as a pattern. You either get pattern 600 or you get pattern 601. Okay? So, the highest, the largest pattern number I can make, largest pattern number is going to be pattern 600. Now I need to figure out, because I need to figure out how many tiles are left over. So I've got to figure out how many tiles are there in that pattern and just see what the difference is. So if I just substitute in that, now I want to figure out how many tiles there are going to be in pattern 600. I can go 2 times 600, which I'm just popping into my calculator. This gives me 1,199 tiles. So that's how many tiles are in that pattern. So now, how many tiles are left over? If I just go 1,200 minus 1,199, you wouldn't even need to do that. That's going to give you 1. Therefore, 1 tile is left over. So this is a merit skill. This is an achieved skill because you're literally just finding the value of term 600, like you're finding out how many there are. And the excellence is just figuring out, I just got to take the one and subtract the other one. So these aren't any new skills you don't already have. You already have these skills, you just got to know to put them together. Okay, so quick little recap. I first figured out the largest pattern. And all I did was I took the formula that I worked out earlier on, I made it equal that, and I just solved for n. And that told me pattern 600 was the highest one. Then I figured out how many tiles are there in pattern 600. And that got me to 1,199. And I just took the difference, so 1 tile is left over. Okay, let's move on to another excellence question, which will be over here. Find the equation of the line passing through the points 4, 7, 8, and 9. Now, we know the equation of a line is y equals mx plus c. We know that this is the gradient, and we know that that is the y-intercept, and we know that that and that stays the same. They're just going to stay there. They're just going to camp out, okay? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and work out our gradient. Now, your gradient, you've usually worked it out as rise over run, okay? We don't have a pretty little graph to do rise over run, okay? So this is the route we're going to go. Is you are going to try and find the y coordinates and try and find the difference between them. So there's our y. So remember, y is up and down. If I have to draw a graph here, that's our y, that's our x. Our y coordinates is up and down. So for example, The one was at 9, the other one was at 7. So for me to find the difference, I can just go 9 minus 7. That's my rise, remember, because it's rise over run. Now my run is 8 and 4. So for example, it will be down here, 8 and 4. What's the difference between that? Notice how I'm starting at this point for my y, which means I have to start there for my x. My y, I started here with 9, and then I went over to that one. Then x, I have to start at the same point, and then move on to the next point. So, 9 minus 7 is 2. 8 minus 4 is 4. So that's going to give me a half. Okay, so that's how you worked out the gradient. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to plug that in place of my letter M. Now there's still something that we don't know. And we still don't know what this is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the points that they've given me, doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to substitute it in or just plug it in, okay? So I'm going to choose point 4 and 7. Now, which one is my x? Remember, the first one is my x, that one is my y. So wherever I see y, I'm going to plug in my y coordinate. So 7 equals, what's my m? A half. X is 4 plus c. Now, I know that 4 times a half is going to give me 2 plus c. Now, we know that 2 plus 5 will give me 7, okay? But if I have to do the full working out, I've got to get rid of 2 on this side, get rid of 2 on that side, so 5 equals c. So we've just worked out what our y-intercept is. The only way you can do that is by substituting a point in, okay? So remember, here's my y, I plugged in my 7. There's my x, I plugged in the 4. So I plugged in this point over here to help me work out what c was, okay? So now that I've got all the information I need, let me just write out my equation. Y equals a half x, and that's a positive 5. And I'm done. If this was a negative answer, I would put a minus instead of a plus. Okay. Next question is question B. A linear sequence has a 20th term of 127 and a 30th term of 209. Find the 100th term. So my first thought is I'm going to try and find the difference. The difference between these two is going to be 10. So my difference is 10. And the difference between 127 and 207 is going to give me 80. So I found the difference between 30 and 10. I went 30 minus 10. Sorry, 30 minus 20. That gave me 10. And then I went 207 minus 127 gave me 80. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm trying to figure out what that little constant difference is. And remember they say a linear sequence. So linear means it goes up in the same amount. It's got the same constant difference, yeah? So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to work out my difference. So if I divide this side by 10, divide that side by 10, my difference is 8. So that just helped me figure out what am I going up in every single time. Oh, I'm adding 8 every single time. Okay? So what this gives me, it equals 8n plus c. Notice how this looks very similar to this. Notice how we also don't know what C is. In both of these examples, we worked out what our constant difference was. Here we call it a gradient. Here it's our difference. We worked out what our difference was. But now what we're going to do is we're just going to plug in, again, values in place of the t and the n. So what's our term number? It doesn't matter which one you choose. You can either choose term 20 with 127. Okay, remember that's term 20. So this would be our n, and that would be however many we've got with n. So that would be what our t would be. Okay? Or you could do term number 30 with 207. It doesn't matter. And all you're going to do is you're going to plug that into this equation. So t, I'm going to do this one over here, is 127. So I just took that number and I just put it in there. Now I'm going to put this number over here. 8 times 20 plus c. It's the same skill, what we just did over here. Except here we plugged in a point. Here we're just plugging in one of these pairs. Okay, so wherever it says 20th term, that's pretty much like your x. And this is pretty much like your y from here. But here we're using different notation. We're using a t and we're using an n. And we know that this is always n. And then this will be our t. Okay? So again, we do this in our calculator. 127. 8 times 20 will give us 160 plus c. Let's get c by itself. So I've got a minus 160 on this side, and I've got a minus 160 on this side. So 127 minus 160 is going to give me negative 33 equals c. Sorry, thanks. Okay, so all I did here was I plugged in my 127. I plugged in that it was the 20th term. I went 8 times 20, that gave me 160. I need to get the c by itself. Same as what I did in this question over here. And that gave me minus 33. So now I've got everything I need in order to fully write this. So t is equal to 8n minus 33. So I just plugged this in from here. And my 8n I got from here. Okay. That should be all. Amazing.